Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to another video. Welcome back to another episode on Beyond the Touchline. This is the pre-game week show for Game Week 21. All of the games are going to be played mid-week. We've got 10 games to talk about. Let's jump right in. Drop a like on the video if you guys are enjoying this series, and of course subscribe if you're new around here. But yeah, let's dive right in. So as covered in the previous episode, looking at the table, I mean, obviously Liverpool still having their 6-point gap to Arsenal. They will want to try their best to continue to extend their lead, whereas Arsenal want to try their best to close down that gap. And that's also the same in Nottingham Forest. As for Chelsea, I mean, a bit of a wobble in form. They're going to try to consider, to have try their best to cement essentially that fourth place if possible, because they've got a really hungry Newcastle catching up behind them, and just behind Newcastle, City a point behind them as well. 2 wins on the bounce for City. Will their winning streak continue? I guess we'll find out. Bournemouth still doing reasonably well. Villa obviously getting a win again. Fulham, Brighton both getting draws on their end, not having really the best of seasons. Of course, despite Fulham, being unbeaten in the last 5 games, 4 draws out of 5 isn't necessarily the best thing altogether. Yes, I mean, they faced very tough teams. Liverpool, Arsenal, and Chelsea have all gotten draws on those occasions. But I mean, like the previous game, they really should have won against Ipswich. That's considered disappointing for them. As for Brighton, obviously still finding their first win in forever. I mean, Brighton have only lost 4 games the entire season, which honestly just isn't too bad. It's just picked up 10 draws, 50% of the games that ended up in draws. 4 of them came in the last 4 games. That's not really good from Brighton's perspective. Brentford obviously picking up a win after quite a while now against Southampton, a thrashing 5-0 win on that occasion. Tottenham obviously lost against Newcastle. Man United drew with Liverpool, which means, they're still stuck over there in 13th. West Ham with new manager coming in, Graham Potter. How will he fare in his first game in charge? Palace in 15th, only on 21 points, but slowly, surely getting away from their relegation spots, which they were in there for the first part of the season, and now the fact that they're up there, which means suggests that they're gonna try to continue to start climbing their way up. As for Everton, not really too sure what's gonna happen with them. Wolves also at the same time fighting. It was a lively start from Victor Pereira, but after that, unfortunately, the past 2 games have not been very positive in his view. Ipswich, obviously a draw and a win for their past 2 games. Not too bad for Ipswich, but they're going to have to try to continue, to score goals. Going to try to continue to win games, or at least pick up good points, just so that they're able to get themselves out of the relegation zone. I mean, they're just level on points with Wolves. Just what's separating them is the goal difference at the moment. As for Leicester, obviously 5 losses in a row, not very good for Leicester. And for Southampton, I mean, it's going to be even more challenging, isn't it, now moving forward? And of course, as for the statistics, Salah with 18, still top. I mean, same thing with the assist-wise, he's the player of the season as for now. Haaland, 16 goals, Isak and Wemo and Palmer all on 13. As for the assists, as I said, Salah is on 13 as well. Saka on 10, Robinson Murphy and Damsgaard all on 7. Right, so here are the games for Game Week 21. We'll start things off with Chelsea. Bournemouth followed that up by West Ham, Fulham, then Brentford City, Nottingham, Liverpool, Newcastle, Wolves, Everton, Villa, Leicester, Palace, North London Derby, of course, coming up, Arsenal, Tottenham, Ipswich, Brighton, and Manchester United and Southampton to wrap things up. And obviously, between Game Week 21 and Game Week 22 is really short. It's just like, I think, about 24 to 48 hours apart between both game weeks, and immediately we'll have Game Week 22 over the weekend. So it's quite an action-packed Premier League week, or rather action-packed week for the Premier League. But yes, we've got 10 games to talk about. Let's dive right into the first game. Right, Chelsea Bournemouth, I mean, obviously, as I've said, Chelsea, they're on a bit of a wobbly form at the moment. Not exactly too sure if it's going to be, temporarily, or it's going to be permanently. I mean, obviously, we're going to hope that it is obviously temporarily, because we believe, Chelsea, they do have the potential, and we've seen what they can do up and down the field right now. And it's just, I think, as I said, when they were really close to Liverpool at some point, it just started to get away from them. And obviously you can see Arsenal and Nottingham, they are getting some good amount of performances. Obviously Nottingham, 5 wins in a row, that's really put them up there, joint second with Arsenal. So it's good to see that, it's think some of the teams, are really putting in consistent performances. And obviously Chelsea, had they done the same as well, they knew they would be up there against Liverpool. All it just needs is 1-2 games of bad results for them to just sleep away, exactly what we're seeing. So again, I feel like Chelsea need to look into their expectations again. They need to understand that it's not going to be easy moving forward. They can't always tell themselves that title challenges at some point. The pressure's really got to get to them, and I think it really did get to them. And because of that, maybe they've not been performing as well. And as for Bournemouth, I feel like they're just being very lively. They're playing some really good football, being threatening when they're attacking. I think defensively as well, pretty darn solid. A lot of good things with Bournemouth. I think we've seen this season under the manager Areola. Really good stuffs that I'm seeing from him, and this is huge positives from Bournemouth. So it's going to be a very interesting game. I mean, obviously, a team that's really hungry for the win, just to get their form back on track, and we've got a team who is hungry to continue to get expiring results, as the games go by. I've given them a 1-1 draw for this one. I just feel that Chelsea struggles are going to continue a little bit more. I think it's not going to be as straightforward. I mean, they might just get the win, but I think as of now, it's not going to be most straightforward for them to just be as convincing as they've been, in the past couple of game weeks. As for Bournemouth, I think, they're going to try their best to get the result, but I think Chelsea, in terms of the quality that they have, I think Chelsea just have the better quality than Bournemouth. But I think for Bournemouth's ability to at least score a goal and hold on to the 1-1 draw, I think they at least have the ability to do that. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be challenging for this one. It's not going to be as straightforward as it looks. I mean, it can go, one way very clearly. But I think the bare minimum, I think this is a result that would probably reflect the current state of both teams when, Bournemouth, as I said, they're really trying to push for it. And Chelsea, in that wobble, not going to be very as convincing as we thought they would be. Right, next game, West Ham Fulham. Now, obviously, Graham Potter's first game at home in London Stadium against Fulham. A Fulham that, is rather revitalised, and a Fulham that, had a very disappointing weekend, obviously, against Ipswich when they know they should have won. It's going to be interesting. I think, as I said, I'm not too sure about what Graham Potter's going to do with the team. I'm not exactly too sure the game plan is going to set forth for the team. Will we see a lively West Ham again? Will we see a West Ham that's willing to push forward up the field more? Will we see a West Ham that's willing to take a little bit more risk here and there? I really genuinely do not know. I mean, it's going to be really challenging moving forward for West Ham still, unless somehow, the games, or rather their performances, just have an uptick in performance by a huge amount. Otherwise, I'm quite certain it's going to be very difficult for them. As for Fulham, I mean, they know that they're going to try the best to continue to pick up wins moving forward. They know that that draw which is just unacceptable, and even I feel for their standards that they've shown so far this season is clearly unacceptable. So I hope to see better things from Fulham, obviously. As for West Ham, I think my confidence with Graham Potter is still really not there. As I said, him being a wild card, I can't obviously, put all my hands on him and say that, put my heart into that and say he's going to be okay, it's going to be okay. As I said, what he's done at Brighton is fantastic. What he done at Chelsea is a bit of a wobble, which ultimately means to me that it's not going to be as straightforward as it looks. And I know managing any team is never as easy as it looks. I think I don't necessarily have the most confidence in West Ham for this one. I'm going to say it's a 2-1 defeat, for the Irons, for the Hammers. And I think, what Graham Potter needs to look at this as, it's not going to be easy moving forward. I hope there's some positives to show from them at West Ham. I mean, obviously, they pick up a win is great. It's a great start for Potter. But then, where the problems don't show themselves, it's going to be a problem moving forward. And I very much rather problems show themselves in the first game in charge, and he does his best immediately to rectify those problems. But I mean, obviously, the first game can't really expect too much, and that's why I've chosen to, put West Ham having a defeat. Maybe they're just going to play the best football possible, and Potter will see how to adjust from there. But yeah, I think Fulham should pick up a win for this one. That's my prediction for this game. Right, Brentford City. Now this game, obviously, City will want to get 3 wins in a row. Now they want to try their best, to push forward. I say only. I mean, the gap between them to Arsenal is 6 points, and Arsenal to Liverpool is 6 points as well. So if people say that it's the gap between Arsenal and Liverpool is closable, it's the same essentially from City to Arsenal. So City are definitely going to try their best to push forward. They're going to try their best to close the gap as much as they can. But obviously results need to go their way as well. I mean, from the last 2 games, obviously wins against Leicester and West Ham, it feels as if they're back. It feels as if, they are trying to gain a little bit of confidence in the games that they're playing. I think obviously Brentford will be a tough test. I mean, Brentford has always been a very tough opponent for City, and Brentford has always done the double on us at times in the Premier League since they've been promoted to the Prem. it's not been easy to play Brentford, and I know that Thomas Frank would do what it takes, to stop City from winning the game as well. But of course, Brentford have always been in up and down form this season, and they've not been as convincing as I think they should be. And I think it's a lot better to see from Brentford. But of course, in Wemel, man's on form as well, will be a huge threat for City, and we clearly know that. And being away as well, I think that's going to be very, very challenging. But I mean, again, compare quality, I'm very sure City have that quality, and they just need to exercise that quality moving forward. I have chosen to give City a 2-1 win for this one. And I think it's just my confidence is starting to brew a little bit again with City. It's starting to grow. I really do hope that, this is the start of something that we're more familiar of seeing. We've just had the worst patch ever in so many years now. And I really hope that, after the 2 wins, I'm really hoping that the team understands that, it's time for us to really get back on track, properly get back on track. To get 3 wins on the bounce now, I think this is really going to do our performance and our confidence a massive boost moving forward. And yeah, this is exactly what I want to see. I don't think it's going to be the most convincing win, of course, but you never know, right? I mean, City can really pull off surprises, whether it's the positives or the negatives. But to me, whatever it is, just need to get the win over the line. That is the most important to me as of now. Right, Nottingham Liverpool, this is going to be a very interesting one. I mean, separated by 6 points. If Nottingham does win, the gap will be close to 3 points. I mean, yes, Liverpool still have a game in hand, but still. Nottingham Forest obviously on crazy form, and even when they don't really have the ball, they've shown that over the past couple of games, they're able to still create chances and still be clinical in front of goal and still be able to score goals. And I think they want to try to replicate their sort of game plan coming into this game against Liverpool. I feel that, they shouldn't overcomplicate things. I mean, of course, I think there's always a different tactic to play against a different team, but unless, they've tried many tactics and they're familiarized with those many set tactics, I think, they should just continue to play the right game. Come into this game with, I'd say, cautiously optimistic, play a positive game, and that's pretty much it. I don't think they should come into this game and expect themselves to win. Again, the amount of pressure that they're putting onto themselves is going to be really, really too much if they do so. I mean, they did get that 1-0 win against Liverpool at the start of the season, so arguably they just need to play the same thing that they're doing, And even if they do, unfortunately, get a defeat, I think it just shows again, that there are obviously pockets to be filled, and obviously it shows that Liverpool just have been that good this season. But for Liverpool, obviously a little bit of a wobble. I mean, a draw against Manchester United and then a defeat to Tottenham. But I mean, they're both arguably tough games. But at the same time, considering how Liverpool have been performing this season, we just expect them to really, get those two teams, kick those both teams, super easily, to just smash them as fast as possible. But we've not been seeing that. Again, could just be a wobble, just like Arsenal having their little bit of a wobble. Will this problem continue against Nottingham Forest? I say yes. And I think Nottingham are actually going to beat Liverpool 2-1. I think, again, the confidence is just super, super high at Nottingham. They're going to come into the game, I'd say with minimal things on their plate, or rather, the risk that they're taking is just so that they're enjoying the game. As I said, they're pretty much secured Premier League for next season already, and this is we're just at the halfway stage of the season. At this point, what they just need to do is just to play the best football, challenge for as good a position as possible. And I think if they do that and adapt that sort of mentality into this game and the games moving forward, I'm very, very certain that they're going to be very, very much okay, or at least competitive in many, many of the games moving forward, especially against tough teams. And yeah, I think for this one, I'm positive for Nottingham to do very well. I think maybe 2-1 is a bit too much of a stretch for Nottingham when it comes to getting that result. But I mean, they've the only team they've given Liverpool the defeat this season. So we'll see what happens with that. My prediction is 2-1 to Nottingham. And yeah, we'll see what happens really. I mean, if this is really going to be the case, if Nottingham are going to win again, more worrying signs for Liverpool coming up? Maybe. Right, Newcastle and Wolves now. Newcastle obviously on the hottest form ever that we've seen from them in a couple of years now under Eddie Howe. Really, really good from Newcastle. I mean, Isak as well is on fantastic form. Will he score in 8 consecutive Premier League games? I guess we'll find out. As for Wolves, I mean, obviously Victor Pereira got 2 wins instantaneously coming in, but ever since then it's been a draw and a defeat respectively. So it's going to be, again, very challenging. Obviously, Wolves are still hovering at the relegation zone, in the relegation zone. And as for Newcastle, they are now looking for a lofty position, trying to push themselves into Europe. I think this one is actually going to be relatively straightforward, in my opinion. I mean, considering the form book for both teams and considering the performances that I've seen both teams have been putting in, I believe Wolves, they have the ability to be competitive, and I believe Wolves have the ability to be, very pushy moving forward, to give problems to teams. I just don't think it's going to be as straightforward as it looks. My take on it is going to be a 3-0 win to Newcastle, a very, very convincing one. I'm going to say Isak is probably going to score again. Now that I say that, if I'm going to jinx it, I really do apologise. But Isak, his positioning at this point in time, his finishing at this point in time is really, really good. Of course, strikers do tend to miss. It's very, very normal. But to score in 7 consecutive Premier League games, and if he's going to score in 8 consecutive Premier League games, he's going to try it, I think, to catch Jamie Vardy's record here. I mean, Jamie Vardy scored 11 consecutive in 11 consecutive games. I think he obviously either matched Ruud van Nistelrooy's record or beat Ruud van Nistelrooy's record of 10 games in a row. Yeah, so I mean that statistic is going to somehow show up somewhere at some point again. But first Isak needs to do is obviously get the ball in the back of the net in this particular game. And I'm quite confident, I think I'm very positive that he's going to do the same, or at least going to have a really, really lively game at Isak. Yeah, but I just think Newcastle will be too much for Wolves to handle, even though I think Wolves are going to have a couple of good chances, but I don't think it's going to be enough, and I don't think they're going to score. I mean, they might just, I think the probabilities, to me, at least, it's not the highest in that regard. Right, Everton Villa, I think, again, this should be, relatively straightforward. Again, I just don't think Everton should be seeing themselves getting a win here as well. As I said, the struggles have just been mounting and mounting and mounting. As for Villa, I'm quite positive from their performance that even though, as I said, the inconsistency, but I'm quite positive that Villa are going to put in a very, very good performance here moving forward. And I know Pickford is going to be another pain. I mean, Pickford is going to try his best to try to get Everton a decent result one way or another. But I'm sure Pickford knows, he's not superhuman. He's a super goalkeeper, but he's not superhuman. So he knows that, where his abilities lie, where his limits lie as well. And I'm sure, that's pretty much the max that's going to happen for him. I think relatively straightforward. I don't think there's much to say for this one. I will just let the football do the talking. And yeah, I just believe, Villa should be winning this one. Again, anything less than a win for Villa, it's going to be a very disappointing result for them. Right, Leicester Palace. Now, would I constitute this as a relegation 6 points? Not exactly. I know Leicester, yes, 5 losses in a row. And yes, Palace are slowly climbing out of, or rather increasing their gap away from the relegation zone. But I think this is going to be a really, really interesting game. I mean, as I said, Ruud, he needs to figure things out right now. He has had 5 losses in a row. This is really, really not good from him. Or rather, I think the challenge that he's expecting has now really shown itself. The team that he has really just that. The quality that Leicester has. I still believe they're really not a relegation side, but based on the performances and the fact they're not being able to get the results on the line, coupled with, I think, some unlucky moments at times, it's going to be really challenging for Leicester City moving forward. And they're going to have to do whatever they can to beat Palace. I mean, there's a team that's surrounding them. They've just got to get a result over the line as much as they can, or at least, be super, super competitive moving forward. They need to do what it takes, to just get those points. And as for Palace, I'm sure, they want to do the same. I think it's going to be a very heated game for this one. Should be very interesting, but I'm going to say it's a 1-1 draw. Tipping Leicester to at least get a point out of this one, and that would mean, it would be a very disappointing result for Palace. But we'll see what happens ultimately. I think, it should be a relatively good game, for both teams. It's just that I think they're going to have to share the spoils for this one, in my opinion. But again, probability-wise, I'm quite certain, Palace stand a better chance of winning, and I think it's more expected for Palace to win. But putting a 1-1 draw result here just because I think, maybe not everything's going to go everybody's way at times in every game week, and maybe this is one of those games for Palace where they're probably knocking on the door a lot, but just not able to get a result over the line. Alrighty, Arsenal and Tottenham, the North London derby, obviously a huge game at home at the Emirates. The atmosphere is going to be amazing, and we clearly know what's going to happen here. It's going to be an absolutely mess of a game. North London derbies always tend to be very, very insane. the vibes, the atmosphere, the tensions that brew all the time in these sort of games. Yes, it's going to be crazy. Of course, I think if you look at the recent form book, Arsenal with that draw against Brighton and a subsequent defeat to Leicester, to Newcastle, against Tottenham's defeat to Newcastle as well, and then the win against Liverpool. It's not been very positive, I think, for both North London sides here. And I think coming to this game, again, looking at the Premier League, yes, Arsenal have been performing really, really well this season. And as for Tottenham, not a very good season from them. In fact, I talked about this in the previous episode. I mean, if you want to listen, you can go back. But in a nutshell, they've had, in terms of number of goals, the number of goals scored and goals conceded, it's been pretty much identical to last season. But the points difference has been huge, simply because when Tottenham wins games, they win them by huge margins, which obviously boosts their overall goal difference. But when they lose, so it's by a really tight margin. And because of that, like 1-0 losses, 1-0 losses, 1-0 losses, it's very hard to compensate. It's arguably as easier to compensate for goals, to score goals, than for points. I mean, points, a 1-0 defeat is a 1-0 defeat, but 1-0 win, 2-0 win, 3-0 win, 4-0 win, the only difference you're going to make is the goal difference. So it's going to be a very interesting game, this one, for both teams. I mean, I'm sure both of them will want to win the game as much as they can. But as I said, it's going to be as challenging as it looks, and I'm sure it'll be a very entertaining game. However, I predicted this game. I think you'll be shocked to see this result. I think Arsenal are going to lose this one. I think considering, as I said, thinking about the moments that they're probably going to have looking forward, and just knowing that it's going to be really, really insane. The players are going to get stuck in. Maybe Arsenal are just going to get a red card out of nowhere that allows Tottenham to do something, to do some magic. I mean, they did some magic against Liverpool. Whether or not they're going to continue that sort of magic, I'm not exactly too sure. As I said, it's going to be challenging moving forward for Arsenal and Tottenham. I'm sure they know about it. I mean, Arsenal will try their best to close down the gap to Liverpool. And should they drop points here and Liverpool don't drop points, it's going to be really, really difficult. And also now, I mean, for predictions, both results are matching, so the gap's going to stay the same. But, of course, Nottingham Forest, by winning, there will be 3 points behind Liverpool. So that will make the Premier League table even more entertaining to look in the grand scheme of things. And moving forward, it will just create a much crazier storyline in the Premier League. But for this one, I don't really have the biggest confidence in Arsenal. But I mean, I might be wrong. Arsenal might just be able to pick up a win and prove me wrong. Which I think it makes sense. I think obviously if you were to bet your money, I think betting on Arsenal would make a lot more sense than Tottenham in terms of confidence levels and probability wise. But I don't know. I mean, it's a prediction again, and I just think that maybe Tottenham will be able to just spur some magic. Who knows, right? Right, Ipswich Brighton, obviously Ipswich will want to be, at the receiving end of a very good result, and Brighton will be wanting to be on the receiving end of getting a win. Again, as I said, it's been 7-8 games now since Brighton had their win, and they would still be trying to fight the best to get that result as well over the line. And I think against Ipswich, it's a huge opportunity for Brighton to get a win. This one, they just know they have to do what it takes to get the good result over the line, get the win over the line, and they know that they just have to do it, really. This is one of the ways now they've got to boost their confidence, and against a side that they know that on a good day or on days where they're performing, it is a game that they know they should be winning, and they know they should be getting the 3 points in the bag. And this is clearly one of those games where they should be hopefully trying to revitalise their Premier League campaign. As for Ipswich, I mean, they've got to expect that it's going to be a really tough game, again, as always. And, it's going to be easy for them moving forward, but they know they've got to try what they really can to just get a result over the line. So, I'm going to see what happens, essentially, in this game. I for one, feel that it's going to be a tight game. Not going to be very straightforward, but I just don't think Ipswich are going to have what it takes against Brighton. A 2-1 win for me, for Brighton. I just think that Brighton are finally going to get their win again. It took them very long. I think it's a long time coming, and I'm sure the fans, the away fans, the Seagull fans, will be extremely ecstatic to at least, to see the team getting a win again. And yeah, that's my prediction on this one. I mean, I know the fighting spirit from Ipswich is there, but I just don't think they're going to cut it for this game. But again, they might prove me wrong. Who knows, right? Right, and to wrap off this game week, we've got Manchester United and Southampton. Obviously, that draw against Liverpool, and people, and especially when fans are saying that United should have won against Liverpool, I think it shows that when United can really, really perform, and this is like a glimpse at least of when things start to go Amarin's way, or rather his game plan is being put into the game. It shows, the possible quality, and it shows the possibilities of what could happen. And I think this is clearly something that, they would want to have as a team. Manchester United, they should know that, they are more than just where they are right now in the Premier League. They know they have to fight for it. And against Southampton, they really should be winning this game. Southampton on the worst run of forms we've seen. Fewer points than Sheffield still at this stage of the season. At this point, it's like as if they're competing against Derby for the least points finishers. And no one's been saying that, essentially. But as the games go by, and if the more defeats they're getting, people are probably going to bring this point up again. Fighting with Derby for the least points in the Premier League campaign, it's going to be challenging for Southampton moving forward. And I think for Manchester United as well, if they don't get results going their way again, or they don't get those results, or they are not being consistently performing to get results, it's going to be even more trouble moving forward. And I've predicted that to be the case for Manchester United. I've said a 2-2 draw. Now, obviously, Manchester United should be winning. I just feel that Liverpool game is like a one-off, at least for now. I just don't have that confidence in Manchester United to deliver game week in, week out, to just do well. It's just not really something that is in me to sort of say that. And obviously, it's like recency bias. But I mean, if you look at Manchester United over the years, right? Just not been it for them. And even in the form book, not really good, in the past couple of Premier League games as well, up and down, up and down, up and down. I mean, December was a torrid month for them. So I don't exactly expect the same from Manchester United when it comes to, getting the result over the line, getting a win. And I think Southampton maybe just getting a point here would do the season a little bit of favours when it comes to trying to get as many points as they can, or trying to be as competitive as they can moving forward. But again, my confidence in both teams are just not really, really high. But obviously United deserve, or rather they stand a higher chance of winning. It's just that, I don't know. I don't think it's going to be very easy, this one. But I might be wrong. It might just be a 3-0 result for Manchester United. So we'll see what happens with that one too. Right now, you guys, thank you very, very much for watching. Of course, I think some of my predictions are a little bit on the bolder side of things. I know some games that you will be shocked as well to see these predictions coming in, but I mean, it's going to be a fun game week nonetheless. Midweek games are always very enjoyable to watch as well. I mean, for us in the middle of the night, and for people in the UK, night games are always very fun to watch as well. After a days of work and just watching football with a group of friends or families, it will be very interesting and very fun to watch as well, supporting your club too. But yeah, that'll be it from me. Drop a like if the video you guys are enjoying. Of course, subscribe if you're new around here, and get discussing comments down below. How do you think Game Week 21 is going to pan out? But I'll see you guys in the next video. Until then, goodbye.